Yeah, you should bookmark that motherfucker. Okay, so this Turbo Earth episode, we're on number 14 now. 13 did not include Corn. He was absent because he had wonderful things to do with family and whatnot. Amazing events taking place, earth-shattering achievements. We're liking it, man. But today he's back, and I kind of wanted to talk myself. Oh yeah, say hello, Corn.
Corn.
And I wanted to say, I talk about college and whether or not it's worth it in terms of value, time you invest, and sort of expectation versus reality, and maybe also talk a bit about how it's framed by school and how what they lead you to believe about it. Um, I guess that's the expectation part, uh, but specifically in terms of how your teachers and stuff talk about it. And I'm someone who didn't go to college, and you're someone who did go to through with some higher education,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
we have maybe definitely different perspectives, if not different, or experiences, if not different perspectives.
I
So I
suspect
kind
we'll
of wanted to
still
explore
form
that a
the
little bit.
same conclusions, though, I think. That's my guess.
Well, let's find out. Tell me a little bit about your start off by talking, at the beginning, or starting from the beginning and talking about what our expectations were. I know that personally, speaking from my own personal experience, there was very uh, self-assured language used that didn't leave a lot of room for doubt or really any, and it was a lot of very matter-of-fact statements like you can expect a
Absolutely.
job at X pay rate, and college will if you go to college it'll help you make sure that you get a job, or you'll definitely get a job in your whatever you study in, like or the implication certainly was that, and there was never like you know any discussion of a plan B, or um, there was never any discussion of a scenario where you didn't get the job that you were looking for out of college. And the numbers that were suggested for some of these pretty simple computer related jobs and stuff were pretty high. And computers seem to do pretty well just because it's something that's going to continue to advance a lot. But some of the other sciences, like maybe engineering, so stuff that has to really be tied to the real world, like engineering and chemistry, things like
Yeah.
that, biotech. I think people end up a lot of times uh, not getting uh, the positions or the pay rates that they were told in in youth by these teachers and whatnot. And you were sort of, I don't know, you sort of looked. I think there was definitely almost like a class stratum, or like a division between, or at least in terms of mentality, between people who chose to go to college and people who didn't, which is obviously had a lot to do with people in trailer parks not being able to afford it and things like that. But anyway, just to stay on topic, I think that it was just shown in a very positive light with no criticality, and no plan B if things didn't work out, no discussion of things not working out. And it was sort of a given that you were to take the SAT and the ACT, or whatever the fuck it was called, and whatever, to get placement and apply in college and whatever. And meanwhile, no one exactly knows what the hell they want to do or what the hell they're doing. But that was my experience all the way up from between probably middle school and college.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, about that sounds about right to me. Yeah, and how much was the SAT? I actually never took it, if you can believe
I never took any of them.
No, no. I was like, why the fuck do I need to take this? Another another test that is missing some other, maybe, I don't know. They seem so just streamlined, almost like it's a money scam again. That's what I should be saying. That's what it all is.
Well, let's keep it, like, take it piece by piece here and talk about, what was your experience in school? Like, what did you hear from the teachers?
Um, are you talking about high school or college?
Uh, well, I don't have the perspective of college, so whatever experiences you have that you can relate, that's the point here.
Yeah.
Both, if you could. I mean, you said you heard the same things I did. Did you hear anything different?
Well, it's
Any
I
sort
did
of
hear the same things about pay, the amount of time invested before you get your degree. You know, they have all these bullet point, just really cookie cutter figures, which even at the time, this is probably 10 years ago now, but
uh-huh.
I knew it was dog shit. I think it was 3 years, they said, you'd have your degree if you did it full time, and then you'd be making, I think they said within a year and a half or so after graduating, you would be making X number of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all of that's just dog shit, total dog shit. Your degree is going to, your skill set rather, is really only going to reflect or be reflected by that industry. So, and where you're at, it's all totally bipolar. There's no guarantees, and these days, when people are starting to figure out that you don't need a degree, and kind of trudge their own path, especially on a creative path.
So,
And you
what
can,
about? Go ahead.
sorry,
No, you're good.
with my school though, there was a class action lawsuit some number of years after the fact.
About what?
Just I'm not sure on the full details. This was after I was finished with the program, but um, they're a private company, the school, and they're essentially just were making false promises, and it led to
What
I think
sorts of promises? Anything
I think
specific that you could say, or
yeah,
just
yeah.
generally what you were saying before?
Well, there's one. I think one of the major points to this was they were basically accepting all borderline vegetable kids.
Oh, like as a
Like
like
people,
an affirmative action sort of a thing where they get some incentive from the government for.
I mean, I'm sure there was some of that going on. Oh, if you have a school and you bring in this many people, this certain type of condition or color, or whatever, I'm sure there's some bullshit going on behind closed doors
Huh.
like that.
So they
But
said
I,
they
I don't.
said that was true, but it wasn't true.
But essentially, what they're doing is they're allowing anyone and everyone in. We're talking people that are sometimes so like borderline paralysis, and you're expected to now do these. These are people who are not going to be getting jobs afterwards, after their money's taken away from them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much help that they need just getting by day to day that that the degree is in and of itself for them not really of any use later on. I mean, no one's hiring like someone who talks through a breathing tube. Uh, Unfortunately, and, I mean, there's always some exceptions, of course, but I remember seeing a couple kids when I was in the program that were like totally unable, like so immobile that just finger movements could be difficult. We're talking about using keyboards, the drawing medium, mouse. It just
So
looked
did you see any of their
physically
work, or I
ridiculous.
mean, were they able to produce any work?
Yeah, I think I don't think the ones that I remember being in the program with didn't last. I think they figured it out pretty quick that this was
Okay, yeah.
absurd. But on a national scale, right, this lawsuit involved just money grubbing, bullshit, false advertising, I think is a cheap way to put it. But um,
Right.
now, go on, go on.
Yeah.
It's
Just real
all
quick.
very, very. My experience, I just want to add here, was very. You get the feeling that they're selling you a product,
Well, they
and
definitely are.
they definitely are. And I think it's never been more pervasive than today. The amount of money in what we
Right.
call the education system, higher education
Of
system,
course.
comparatively to maybe 100 years ago or whatever. You want to
Yeah.
pluck from history. It's not really about
Um.
learning anymore.
Yeah. I don't mean to call you out in the podcast. Were you sick or like super duper stoned or what? So you talk about like low vocal fry a lot, and I don't know if you realize, like, don't have the self awareness or what, but your vocal fry is like horribly low sometimes, and you sound like you're like on the edge of death and shit. So
Right
pep up a
now,
little bit. Yeah. Uh huh.
I
Pep
think
up a little bit.
my yeah, my nasal passage is a little
All right, we'll
uh,
try to perk up. You know, put a little more energy in your voice. We're speaking to the world here. All right, but anyway, those are interesting points. And I think cost is something that is a huge issue. It's gone up actually over time. I think even adjusted for inflation. Meanwhile, the quality has gone down, partially because of their willingness to accept anyone. I think, and I'm not speaking so much to people with disabilities, but just people who are really incapable of doing the work. And I've seen some stories of certain people getting accepted, like black guy getting accepted, where he just wrote Black Lives Matter 1,000 times on his Harvard application and got accepted because it was considered poetic and like deeper meaning and all this stuff. I guess it was over my head and whatnot, but uh,
shit. Did that
I
actually
think it's
happen?
like, yeah, and it dilutes again. It dilutes the quality when you have all of these people who their heart's really not in it, or they're not really capable, or whatever, and so your value, if your cost is going up, and the amount of people that have a degree, even assuming they all had atomized, totally even capability, the worth of a college degree to a potential employer it goes down as the degrees become more prevalent. So say 10% of people had a college degree, and an employer has 100 people that he's looking at. Those 10 people that have the degree are going to stand out as being specially trained. But if 70, 80, or 90%, or 100% in many cases, a lot of cases for a lot of these desk jobs and stuff, have to have this degree just even as like a requisite. That's like, I mean, uh, I don't know, man. It seems
Yeah, yeah.
like it's not really all it's cracked up to be. And I know that a lot of people are in debt, up to their eyeballs from student loans. Um, Luckily, I don't have any. I'm I think if I wanted to go to college and then realized just how much debt I had to take on, I wouldn't have done it even if I wanted to go. But I didn't want to go because I think the education system as it stands doesn't really work very well. It's not for me anyway. Um,
Well,
but
the supply and demand reality around it is that alone should probably make you hesitate. Uh,
Yeah, there's absolutely no guarantee that's going to get you anything. And there's a great video. Did you ever see the video by Peter Schiff where he's going around talking to a bunch of people on Bourbon Street, strip club bouncers, bartenders, and bus boys and things like that, and asking them if they have a college degree, if so, in what? And yeah, a lot of those people had a lot of degrees in and advanced degrees even.
Oh yeah,
and they were
yeah.
they were bussing tables and stuff like that just because the work's not available for them. They're promised the world, but and then learn this highly specialized, spend all this time, not to mention the time. I mean, those are some of the best years of your life, and a lot of people see it as a time to party and whatnot, and use it that way instead of for education, I think. But really, it's you should be. I think you should actually be doing maybe a little exploring the world and pursuing personal hobbies and figuring out what your personal medium and long term goals are and using those to sort of develop your
Right.
career interests and whatever, rather than just choosing something sort of on a whim based on perhaps a passing interest or whatever. And especially, you see, you're in the arts, but I guess it still applies. You know, you're in the arts, and part of the way I think these educators frame the type of or the, the type of jobs that the educators give you the expectation of getting are creative, and I guess you could say we had a little bit of this discussion before in the creativity episode, but you could say that anything you're creating is still being creative, even if you're 3D modeling desk chairs for some furniture company of like slight variations over and over again every day for your
I
whole
don't
life.
personally feel that at all, though.
Right, right. And you made that point before, and I actually agree with that. And so, and that's what I'm saying. It's another sort of fallacy in the presentation of the worth of the diploma
Oh, totally,
in an
totally.
arts thing is like you're gonna be making video games, or you're gonna be making short films or 3D whatever, or like fucking who knows what. But it's never gonna be, or not often gonna be, I don't know. You get more pragmatic in college probably than high school, but it's not gonna be designing different models of plastic desk chairs for 30 years with no pension at the end of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah,
yeah. What can
yeah.
you
It's
speak to that at all from your experience, please?
oh, I mean, it's how the world goes round. It's the American dream. You think you can pursue something that is uh, perhaps as fruitful as maybe those hobbies and activities you were doing in your youth, or perhaps when you didn't go to college, right? You spent your time, spent your 20s figuring out what you should be doing and what you want to do, and figure out or figure out how to use your body when it's in its prime. I suppose that's worthwhile. Um, but I think
Yeah, I agree with that.
I
You
just
think
can't.
what?
I just can't imagine going and doing it again. It makes me sick to think about, actually.
So you wouldn't do it the same way again?
Oh no, no way, no way, no how. I mean,
So
my personal
can
case, you can learn any of it online now.
right, right, and that's with
But
anything I think pretty much. But
but
can you
perhaps in
speak
my
a little bit
case,
before we move on? Like people don't know about your case. Like so you went to what kind of school to study
I
what,
went
and
to
ended up with what kind of
a
job?
computer science degree at the Art Institute in Portland, which
Oh,
is
it's computer science, huh? Not 3D modeling or anything.
any of those programs, no matter how
Falls
they
under that
label them.
umbrella.
Yeah, yeah. It all in
Okay.
the end just looks like that. It's just a
Okay.
bachelor's in computer science.
And but you were
Um,
studying 3D modeling.
I was in the game program, actually,
Oh, really?
and I
Okay.
stayed in that even though my pursuits didn't really follow along that particular uh, 3D agenda. I was more in the visual effects side, I guess, by the time I
Okay.
finished.
Uh-huh.
But like I said, it's still a computer science degree. It didn't really matter
Yeah,
what
yeah.
program you were in.
I got you.
Some of those guys were in the hentai program, and they still just got a
Shit, they're probably
degree in
making money.
computer science.
They're probably actually animating stuff and making money.
Dude, I remember I was standing with my buddy in maybe my second or third year at the
Yeah.
elevators of the building, the school.
Okay.
And it's not that big, it's a few floors in this part of a building, but uh, one of the guys standing at the elevator, and there was another girl standing there waiting for the elevator as well. Uh, the third guy was a ponytail, trench coat, pimply, oily, very pompous guy who absolutely could not take direction or any sort of critique without, mouthing off back to like the instructor. Nonetheless,
Okay. Real defensive.
he's telling the girl at this elevator, a little nook in the wall. We're standing there. We can hear the conversation.
Yeah.
He's describing to her how he's got a drawing pad in his hand. And it's
Oh
full
shit.
of hentai and like sexed out anime girl illustrations
Yeah.
of his. And
Okay. And is it
he's
visible? It's
telling
like
her how
open. Is it
he's
open?
getting, yeah, he's got it open.
So it's like on display. He doesn't have his cover closed.
He's not fully showing her, but he did kind of open up, and I saw like a girl, an anime girl in like a bikini,
Oh.
with like nipples showing through this tight little. They weren't exposed, but I'm sure some other
Yeah.
stuff in there was.
Yeah, I
Anyways,
bet the girl was just totally
he's
enamored with him, looking
dude.
at this totally exaggerated
I could see
fucking
her
version of
backing,
female
backing
anatomy.
into the wall between the two elevators, like she was like in
Really?
a
Literally?
corner. Well, I mean, I don't think she was super uncomfortable. I mean, she was uncomfortable, but she wasn't in danger.
Not threatened. Yeah, no, those guys don't really threaten anyone until they put a machine gun in their trench coat.
Right, right, and he was non-threatening. In fact, it was scarier than that because he
Pathetic,
was
dude.
totally unable to see socially how
Yeah.
horrified everyone was, and then he went and told her that he was currently working on X, Y, or Z. It may have been what he was trying to show her in the first place, but he mentioned how he was getting paid $20 to do a drawing for someone.
Fucking
Some hint.
dank.
So there's an example of someone who maybe
That was one
was
of
a
your
part of that
peers.
class action lawsuit.
Oh,
There were several.
damn.
There were
Well, so-
several guys along those lines, though, of just total messed up, kind of loner, taking advantage of types. Socially.
Well, you
just-
so you were in the game program, which is probably
Yeah.
like the ripest place for them.
Oh,
Did they
no doubt.
what kind of expectations did you get from them specifically, like in terms of jobs? They talk about maybe getting a job for it, or what kind of, did they use any examples, or what? What kind of language did they use?
Yeah, a lot of the instructors, right, had some experience or
Okay.
current experience in some occasions, but usually it seemed more like you were being taught by someone who just didn't make it in the industry.
Yeah, there's an expression, those who can do, those who can't teach. I don't know how true it is, but
Right. Like I had one, there were a couple instructors I had who were actually recent graduates, and I feel like I got lucky. It's sort of a roll of the dice. If you don't get the right instruction at the right
totally,
time,
dude.
dude, it makes or breaks how whether something clicks fully or whether you become passionate about it. So I had two of like the best 3D modelers you could ever ask for at a shitty school like that. But that was because they were in the process of building their life, and they were only there for like a year tops before they both ended up
Yeah,
in
moved on to
DreamWorks.
something better.
Yeah, and I think they're doing fine, but those are the exceptions. And
Yeah, well, they moved on is the point. You know,
well,
I think,
and even they have to job hop. I mean, you in my industry, you are gathered up, and then used until the market shifts or the project's over in the case of film or something, um, and then you're out of a job, right? So you might only be on it for 6 months, maybe 3 months, depending on the needs of the production.
Totally,
Um,
man. Uh, yeah.
and they don't
Uh,
tell you any of that, of course.
uh-huh.
Uh, I had one guy that did I think he modeled and rigged the severed penis from that 3D Piranhas movie.
I don't know nothing about that, but it sounds awesome. Was it in theaters?
Yeah, maybe it was it was a theatrical like Halloween movie maybe or something.
And someone's penis came off?
Yeah, there's like some people swimming and
Oh,
these
damn, dog.
piranhas
So they
sever
3D it
bite this
came
guy's.
off penis at you?
I think the camera's
Oh
looking. I
my
think I've looked it up
god.
online, but there's the camera's looking
Oh
up at
my
the
god.
surface of the water and a 3D CG
Oh, and
floppy
it just
severed
bubbles up like a
flaccid
shark fin.
penis kind of floats
Da-na-na,
down through the water or
da-na-na.
something. But that was so that I actually thought was something badass. I would love to have that on my resume.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, but yeah. I mean, if you do that one time in your whole 60-year career, it's
But
not saying too
that was
much.
just a small side job he got while teaching, right? So
Yeah,
these aren't lucrative jobs. You know, you're not
yeah.
your skill set seems um, so robust and well established, but the work itself is just very chaotic and usually not as well paying as you want it to be, of
Yeah, if I
course.
can
And
make a couple points before we move on too far in response to what you said, in terms to the length of people stay at places of employment, high turnover rate of various positions.
it's
I don't
I've
think
seen
it's
so many people come and go at
Yeah,
the
well, I
company I
don't
just
think
worked
that's
for.
particularly unique to your industry. I'm sure it's certainly I think the fact that a lot of the stuff we're talking about here as examples of places people have worked, movies and games and things, they're project based, and when those projects come to completion, that work is done, and you need to find another project. So it's not a guaranteed cycle of steady work like a 9 to 5 job at a factory would be, for example. Uh, but there's also a big part of the issue with the um, high turnover rate federally is the fact that there is low pay for these positions, lower than expected, as you just alluded to, and the high mobility of people these days, and also the fact that there are no benefits, no pensions, nothing to encourage you to stick around for those 25 years to get a gold watch and a pension and health insurance and all this
No,
stuff even after you're retired. No one's going to pay for that. They can't
it makes
afford it because they're too busy fattening their pockets. CEOs and shit buying islands and building smart cities and
lining
shit.
lining the coffers,
Yeah.
and it makes me wonder. You're making me wonder real deep now about, is this just a a wide scale, massive collaboration between institutions to make a generation of young people take on a massive amount of debt
That you cannot default from. You can't
and then
could declare
use that
bankruptcy.
debt and yes, and hold it over your head for the
Yeah,
rest of your life.
there's no way to get out from under it.
Throw you some bones every once in a while, and then reel back on them 10 decades after that. And when it's all said and done, I think we're gonna see uh, a an economy where there's no a number of jobs that can fill the number of positions or people with degrees.
Yeah, people
Uh,
expecting positions. Totally. People don't really even take that into account. How many people are employed in this sector before they pursue a degree? And
well,
that's not
and
very pragmatic, especially when you're dropping 60 grand on that education.
dude, I know a
But
couple
I would agree it's a
people
scam.
that
And I
have.
would agree there is probably some collusion, or there's, I mean, if not collusion, at least the government absolutely knows it's a scam. Just the fact that it's impossible to get out from under the debt. It doesn't
Well, I
go
think
away after 7 years. You can't default on it. There's no way to declare bankruptcy. You cannot escape that debt until
I
it's
mean
paid off.
it's
And
just more. Is it
these
not more
young
of the
people
same?
are the young people just out of high school and just out of college. They're at their most vulnerable point in their entire lives, choosing where to start their career and having no experience, which a lot of these jobs need in addition to the degrees, because the degrees don't differentiate you enough anymore.
It's a
Uh,
sales program.
and
Just for young people.
separate from the money aspect of it, the fact that it's such colleges in general have such a one-sided cultural and political view. I guess you could call it stereotypically left or Marxist or progressive or postmodern. Uh, it's so I think there's some studies out there where it's like 1 to 20 conservatives to which I don't like these boxes at all anyway, but these people embody these stereotypes, so I can't help but use them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a 20 to 1 ratio, and I mean we've all seen the videos of say Melissa Glick um, targeting a guy who's just trying to record a rally, and it's a safe space, and they consider him someone who they has an opinion different from theirs that they think is hateful or whatever, even though I don't think he really did. And uh, and she was calling for people to come physically remove the guy and rough the guy up. This small, angry little middle-aged woman.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
a ton of examples like that where and people screaming about it's your job to provide a safe space, and the lack of any kind of questioning or willingness to learn and hear opposing ideas. It more deeply than high school, I think, reinforces the non-critically thinking, unquestioning, uh, like assimilation of data without questioning whether or not it's valid. And that's how you end up with these crazy ideas where there's 72 genders, and men and women are not no different at all, and a man can be a woman, and he is biologically a woman, just because we put this inverted penis and scrotum chamber that I hope you lasered off the hair off of, because you'll get hairballs in there. That's not a vagina. It's not properly self-lubricating. Uh, and we're so,
I've
but
always
to say
wanted
that
dreadlocks inside my vagina.
yeah, that'd be pretty stylish. Get one of those like inside cameras the Japanese pornos use. Wait,
Be
I
like a
don't know
bunch
anything
of
about that.
wet
But
meatballs.
so it's we're ending up in this crazy, total crazy world where to end racism, we become racist against white people and say that they're inherently bad and should be subservient to black people because of the history of our ancestors who we didn't know, um, and uh, and they are just totally unwilling to even hear opposing viewpoints. That makes for a citizen who's likely to just do what the government says and follow orders essentially when they try to engineer society the way that they want to through the colleges and otherwise. And that's pretty fucking scary, dude. And I think colleges are actually going to die and dry up because,
A lot
like
of
you
them
mentioned
will. A lot
before,
of
you
them will.
can.
Yeah.
It's going to take time, but people. All it's going to take is for. Excuse me, dropping shit over here. All it's going to take is for people to come to the realization that, as you said, all this stuff is available online. You can, if you have the willpower and the wherewithal, you can use the internet and navigate the internet to educate yourself on any subject that you'd like to and become an expert on it. It only depends on how much time and energy that you're willing to invest in it. The limitation is not the availability of information. It all is in each individual's hands. We don't need to go to a special place with the special books and the special smart people to hear the special information. It's all available to all of us all the time, and to spend a whole bunch of money to go do that in a specific place seems totally absurd and outmoded and like a scam, totally.
Well, you
Yeah,
can, I think part of that one is to figure out what it is that they can do and have the capacity or capability to do, given enough practice, so to speak. There are certain things you really shouldn't touch, right? Like you should know
what do you mean?
yourself. Well, like for me, I can I can go online and I can do as much research as I need to do to, so to speak, be an expert 10 years from now on some particular science, right? But there are some avenues for which my mind and intelligence is just not suited for, right? And I know
Yeah,
that, and I'm
waste of
not going to
time.
pursue it.
Okay.
Uh, that doesn't change your point or change any of the variables here. You really, uh, but what I'm saying is, there are probably some scenarios where you get that advanced degree in and you're 32 years old when you go to do it, right? And you already have some experience in your field, and you know what you're about, and what you're already doing it, right? And a lot of times, your job will send you back to school and pay for it so that they can then promote you. That's really, I think, how it's supposed to work. But what we're dealing with are a bunch of literal high school kids uh, who are then being
Uh,
sold a
yeah.
cheap product.
I'm still not convinced you
Typically,
need to go anywhere to do any of that stuff, but go on.
well, I mean, I think there. I'm not saying you need to, but I think there are um, some reasons, perhaps, why you would.
Some people might benefit from the structure or something like that, but we could have virtual versions where we have virtual classrooms. Everyone's sitting there with a webcam. People have a
Right.
button to raise their hand, and the teacher calls on them, answers questions in real time. We have video chat for everybody. You can see it.
Oh,
They
sure,
can
sure.
send the classwork digitally, the books, the tests, the questions, everything. So there's still no
the
reason
the
to go
environment is
there.
one thing, but I'm saying more in line with just you're in this X, Y, or Z industry, and this, if you get your master's or PhD, let's say, and where of course the supply and demand is much smaller in those areas, whereas just a 4 year degree or a 3 or 2 year degree is tens and hundreds of millions of people competing for most of the jobs. So
Yeah.
when you're in like a niche, I think some of these variables shift a little, you know, and you're probably not likely to fail. You're sort of guaranteed a job.
Well,
Even
the
some
job
of the
still has to exist, and it has to exist in your area. I mean, a lot of people aren't willing to move across the country just for a
totally,
job.
totally, you know,
Uh,
I'm just saying that as I can see myself or see other people that went to 4 year schools, I have a few smaller, Sarah, some other people I know who who are only going to benefit from this circumstance. But they're not 18 years old, right? They're the right personality type, and they already have the experience or foundation there, and so this they're not just throwing the dice and hoping to compete in this industry 6 years from now when they get out of school.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, sure, that's a little bit different example. I'm
it
talking
is, it
mostly
is.
about the kids
So
coming fresh out of college, and I think
totally,
if I could make a quick point, I think that the you mentioned you talked about experimentation earlier, and in college, a college format where you have to sign up and commit financially to pursuing a certain line of education, and it's a package deal where you can't individually pick even each class. You're required to take English and math and whatever, even if it's totally irrelevant to your um, career
and
goals.
that's a part of the price packaging, right? This is what it's infuriating. Yeah, I hate
And
that
so
aspect more
you're
than
actually
anything.
unable to experiment, and you may find out halfway through college, as many people do, and drop out. A lot of successful people, in fact, that it's not the direction that they wanted to go. Now, if you take the approach that I'm talking about, using the internet to educate yourself, uh, that disappears. You can shift at any time, day to day, and learn about whatever you want to with absolutely no financial consequence. And I think that ultimately, no matter how much you learn, uh, ultimately, even if it's an advanced research, you learn or theories on writing or whatever. You learn a lot more by creating something of your own and doing some actual work and getting the practice of doing whatever the work might be rather than just learning about it. It's orders of magnitude more valuable, the actual real world experience. And so if you can use doses, moderate doses of information from the internet to enable you to do real world or even high doses, it depends on what you're doing. Uh, you can do it tailored however you want to is the point. You have that flexibility to experiment or structure it in whatever way that you choose and give yourself the knowledge to go ahead and take those steps in the real world and try to do some of your own research and put a paper out there or write something or teach yourself to weld and actually build some shit and try to put it online and sell it or make some art or whatever the case may be. Send a demo of some of your 3D work to all kinds of different, make some animations and send them out to DreamWorks in every studio you can, or just start making your own shit and ask people to donate. I mean, there are unlimited possibilities. This sort of one, everyone funnels into this one area, and of course there are trades and everything, which we can talk a little bit about. But just funneling everyone through this one path when everyone's so individual and the needs are so different. I know schools are different and everything else. It's just, to me, it just seems insane given what I've said. The options that you
Right.
have now to do it that way and restrict yourself in all those different ways just seems absurd to me.
And I can think of a number of ways that you could, right off the bat, take the existing system and and very easily just make it more beneficial to really everyone at much less cost, right? Not that they want that to happen, but thinking on
No,
myself
they don't.
here, the classes that I had, uh, I guess, drive in or passion for the work, and got A's in, which were not most classes, but they were the classes that I was actually uh,
Most interested in.
most. Those were the skills that I wanted, that I cared about, and that I needed for my future pursuits, and I knew that about within myself. The vast majority of what I was doing just to get C's and B's and a few D's in the other classes was just because I had to. I didn't
Yeah,
care about. I didn't push myself to do better in them. I didn't need to.
that's absolutely a fact, and I
I
know
didn't
that to be
need to
true too.
read, Kant and write a paper about the philosophy of Kant. I I don't need to spend
Yeah,
time doing that on your time at this time when
and
I
what
could be
that
investing that time in my pursuits over here and get the A plus, which I don't even really care about because I already know that I'm throwing all of my energy and investment of time to this one specific area that I'm destined to be good at. So when you do that in your own life, right? That's the same thing you do in your own life with your hobbies and your other pursuits that you have a care for or drive for or passion for.
absolutely, man, and that totally reinforces what I think, which is that the efficiency of learning goes up when it's self-directed. If there's passion behind what you're doing, you're gonna be up through the night learning and excited about it. It's gonna like when you learn something that you're really interested in, uh, unless you just are willfully dumb and don't care about learning, it's really exciting. It's electrifying, man, and highly motivating. Totally. Um, are you willing to talk at all about the debt that you incurred, like the numbers of it behind it?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Mine isn't even the worst example, of course.
or any friends or relatives that
but
you don't want it that you can not
mine's
name,
really
but
not all that
maybe
interesting. I've got my bill down to under 10,000, so that's totally manageable.
what did it start at and how long have you been
It
paying?
started at, by the time I got done, it took me 5 years because there was too many bullshit classes, so I had to drag it out. You know.
Not the 3 years that they told you or whatever.
No, not the 3 years. The fuck out of here, dude. To, you would be
I was gonna ask more about that too.
you would be clamoring day and night for 3 years to finish 4 year program in 3 years. But they make it sound like that's what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, where was I?
Um, talking about debt
Right.
and how your story's not all that
So my
bad.
my debt is below the mean,
So what did it start at?
and
You said you got
it's oh by the
six
time I
grand.
got out, it would have been at 40 something.
Okay. Do you have
10.
any? And you got how many left?
I haven't looked for a couple
Like
months. Really
six
looked at it.
G's.
No, under it's four figures, so I think it's under 10,000
Nice,
somewhere.
dude. Fucking, that's good, dude. Hey,
That's good,
congrats.
but you look at like well, Alex, he's probably still paying shit off,
Oh yeah.
and he never finished. Uh,
Oh, that's
ex
right. Yeah, he
my
didn't finish.
ex's friend, she had a degree in, I think it was French and journalism, like a
Okay.
major. I think she had 2 degrees because she, you know, fucking doesn't know what she's doing. Except
Did you want to be a journalist, like on the news or writing for a newspaper or a
no,
magazine?
you know how some, it's probably more of a girl thing, but you know how they'll go and live in Paris or something and study French, and then when once that magic's all said and done with, now they've got a degree in fucking French and a minor in goddamn journalism,
Hey, that's
and
probably a good time, but
and they're gonna now, okay,
how
now
much
that
owing?
you studied abroad and you had your little fucking cute vacation or whatever,
Now what's the
learning.
cost?
Oh, she's way over 6 figures and definitely doesn't have a job.
Oh,
Yeah, I
and
think
there's
I
no way
think
to
she
get out of
even
it.
went. Last I heard, I think she went back to school again.
Oh, why?
Oh, dude, I
To
don't
try
know,
to
but
get more, to get a
I
better
can't
job?
tell you how many times I've heard that exact same fucking type of story.
When I was dating recently, when taking a break from me and my girlfriend, um, it's insane how many 30-year-old women and 28-year-old women are going to college. It's like, what are you fucking doing? Shouldn't you know what the fuck? Shouldn't you be doing something by now?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like at that point, you should be. Uh,
At that point, you should be fucking going to be an apprentice as an electrician or plumber or some shit. Just throw in the towel and fucking. But there's no way to get out from under those loans. You're saying it's over 100,000?
uh, yeah, easily, way over.
That's so scary to me. And see,
I,
I've
I
never
think it
taken a
may have even
loan.
been like 170 or 80,000, but I'm not gonna guess.
Yeah,
I know it was
yeah, yeah,
way
yeah.
over 100.
That's crazy as fuck. Yeah, I've never taken a car loan. I've never, I've never had payments for anything except utilities and phone and stuff like that. I've never made payments for anything, and I have no credit because of that, which has been a little bit of an inconvenience here and there. But um,
Why don't you just go to a credit union and get like
I
one?
tried to, but they, because of some outstanding medical bills that were being resolved through an insurance company, very, very
Oh,
slowly.
from your accident?
No, yeah, right, yeah.
Oh,
And
jeez.
like while they were resolving it, they're like they're still on my books or whatever, so they didn't want to let me open. So I'm stuck with
I mean,
corrupt
you could
ass
just
Wells
use it to
Fargo.
buy your kratom or something just to establish like it's not
I
a
don't want
little
credit.
bit.
I don't want credit. I'm just saying I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
mean,
any.
yeah,
I
you'll
don't
get
care about
fucking
it.
junk mail.
What's credit for? To get a loan, which I've never had and never had a desire for because I don't like getting in debt. So what the fuck do I want credit for? No, thank you.
It's
My dad was
it's
telling me to
a
buy jewelry when I was in high school and stuff to build up some credit. I'm just like, do you know how stupid that fucking sounds?
he
And maybe
told
that's
you
great
to
for some people,
he
but
told you to buy fucking jewelry.
just to build up your credit, yeah, just buy like a nice watch or something, and just make payments on it just to build up your credit. You know, buy something nice for yourself or whatever. And whatever, it doesn't matter what it could have been. I was just in high school at the time, but I don't care about fucking credit, man. I don't need credit to live.
Can
And
you
I was
imagine
lucky enough
telling?
to go ahead and. That said, when I tried to get a home loan, I was pretty much fucked. But luckily, I didn't end up having to do that with this place after I got my settlement. Um,
Well, and it's all
but
just a bunch of made up bureaucratic fucking hoops to jump through that they all designed for us to be like little fucking dog lemming.
there are ways around it, though. I mean, I was just going to save up cash, buy land, throw a trailer on there, and eventually save up more money to build a cabin and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But I got lucky. But yeah, man, college is something else, dude. I'm not convinced. Becky probably wouldn't mind me saying. I don't know what her total debt was, but her family helped her pay for some of it, and she had like 7,000 she paid for, and hers is all paid off,
Yeah.
which is
Oh, that's
pr-
great.
yeah, that's really low compared to a lot of people. But she didn't go to a big fancy school or anything either. But I'm sure a lot of it was. I'm sure a lot. I don't know. It was probably expensive. Um, I would encourage people, just while we're on the subject, to pursue trades like welding, electrical, plumbing, and stuff. I think there's a lot of honor and like pride to be had in fixing things for people and building things and creating things, making things that don't run work again, and having something to show for your work at the end of the day rather than just turning off a fucking computer screen and going home with your crippled back. There's a whole lot to be said for it, man, and not that welding's not hard on the back. I don't want, I should probably say that if I'm talking about bad backs, but people should look at some alternative options. And again, I would really encourage people to pursue trying to educate themselves online using the internet. And
Also,
we're
I would
coming
just
up on an
add that
hour pretty soon, so
if you're a person who's void of hobbies and like general creativity or
that's really important, actually.
mental just engagement from time to time, I think you might be a lost cause in that case.
Yeah, without passion, you don't have anything. You need to develop some kind of interest for sure, whatever it might be, and pursue it because that's what's going to motivate you to get up every day and keep doing wading through the mud, doing the hard work, smashing rocks, to get to your ultimate goal.
Yeah,
That's hard to do when you're working at McDonald's and there's no end in sight, but if you're working on building a cabin and you can see it in your mind's eye, the beautiful dream home, or you can watch some free welding DVDs online, or order some, or just watch the free videos of DVDs online, and got close-up views and descriptions of the techniques they use, man. It'll make you a good fucking welder. It did for me. If you listen and pay attention and do what they say, I mean, that's all you got to do.
I suppose maybe surgeons are perhaps one exception we didn't mention. I don't know that I
Yeah,
want. I don't know that I want anybody learning like online surgery and then just going to town. So,
of course there are exceptions. Of course there are exceptions, but if
or like
we
a
maybe could get some of these people out of college, right? And the demand wasn't so stupid high for no apparent reason, and get people educating themselves and leave college for what it's supposed to be for, which is for highly specialized occupations that actually need that on the hands and super critical, make sure that you can do the fucking work and that you absolutely know the information, the testing and all that stuff. That's important for them. But if we didn't have people spending 6 years fucking around with art history and women's studies and getting out and going back to live at their mom's house, maybe there'd be more room for or maybe the cost would go down for the people who did have to take the medical school and stuff. I mean, if you just look at it from a supply and demand
Totally.
aspect,
I
but
mean
there's government control in education, so I don't really know
right,
how much interference there is in that regard.
right, and until you know, if the government and corporate lobbying from these schools and the people who are, you know, the CEO, so to speak, of these school programs, who are now um, in some sort of relationship, either economic relationship with someone or certain entities in the government. I really just don't believe that costs for these things will come down because it's supposed to be a ripoff. They want to make it. They want you to believe you need it and that you're investing in your future, and you'll make X times the amount you invest put in, which of course is not be interested in the numbers, but I suspect most graduates earn far less than the average of what they're either told or supposed to be um, earning.
Yeah, my personal experience and the experiences of those I've known throughout my life lead me to believe the same thing. I've worked a lot of bullshit jobs, service jobs like working in food joints, etc. And I found that a lot of my coworkers have had degrees in a lot of things that didn't have any goddamn thing to do at all with making smoothies or sandwiches. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you know the
something to
total
think about.
cost of the courses that I benefited from personally and wanted to benefit from and would have taken, you know, maybe if they were isolated at cost value, uh, we're talking maybe 15% of the total course material, like, actually benefited
Yeah.
me and my skill set now, or at the time, I should say. Um,
Yeah.
so
Meanwhile, you don't even
it's
need
all just a big
software.
fucking money grubbing, coffer lining, hookup fuck
It's
show
changing though.
between several, you know, authoritarian money grubbing entities, between these institutions that sell a product, an educational product, and how far and deep in bed and entrenched they are with their political investors. Um, you know,
Yeah.
and the
That has
credit
something to
card
do with it.
agencies and the banks and the fucking
Oh yeah.
and you know, it's all they're all holding hands, playing ring around the rosy, and you're the fucking posy.
Yeah. Well, we're breaking out of that with the new
And we are
information.
breaking out of it. I think the next, I think just like some of the other topics we've covered on here, people are radically leaving behind these sort of Western or Americanized sort of societal expectations that have been put on them. The 40-hour work week, the buy the fucking picketed house full of kids,
Yeah, in a
and
neighborhood where you
and
have
the
no yard and the houses are 8 feet apart.
yeah, 8 feet apart.
Have you seen that?
You
Have you
also don't
seen
even
that?
have a garage, dude.
Yeah. Have you seen the houses that close together where they're 8 or 10 feet apart? That's some crazy shit, dude.
Oh yeah, in
You better like your
Seattle and
neighbors.
God, Chicago and shit. Um, Places where you have those shotgun homes, even.
Yeah, 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 man.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
well, I hope people will
so
consider this
people are
information.
figuring it out, and part of that is just permaculture is so really popular now. You know, in a generation where it wasn't for a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
after I made that off-grid video, there's a Washington Post article talking about how more people are leaving their white-collar jobs to go work on farms
you
than
sent me
ever.
that, right? Yeah,
Yeah, than the
yeah.
first for more than there's been an increase for the first time in 50 years or something like that. And not only that, these farms tend to be organic and they don't use chemical pesticides and things like that. They're more sustainably oriented and cruelty free and things like that. So we're I agree that we're talking about things that are. I'm trying to look at trends also.
Yeah,
That
yeah. I
helps
think it
helps make
ties
my
into that
assessment,
definitely.
and that is what I'm talking about. This digital education. Go ahead and look for more stories about that, especially when we have 3D VR and all this crazy shit be proliferating, and more and more people waking up to the college scam. You're gonna see lots of this stuff, and that's a good thing. But yeah, so we're ahead of the curve on that one. We're ahead of the curve on this one. You're gonna see more and more
Well,
people
well, and I think
adopting.
I think it's important to note though that you know traditionally what you would describe as going off the grid, like we briefly mentioned here and in other shows, and like how you operate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, for a long time that creates an image in your head of just like no communication, minimal technology, definitely no internet. Uh, you're a fugitive, so to speak. But what we're going to see now, and I think part of the reason people are finally returning to their roots, so to speak, that desire is somewhat in tandem with technology, and it will benefit. The two will benefit each other, I think, in the long run when people do form their lives kind of away from the 2 foot alley clusterfuck of suburbia.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with why people are moving back out to the country and away from
Yeah,
cities. I agree.
you're right. Well,
And
you're gonna be getting packages delivered to you no matter where you are. You're going to have
yeah,
and you'll be able to cook and get access any food you need. You'll be able to grow most of your stuff uh, that you need on your own property, and the technology to be electrified and digified at the same time will always will only be getting better, right?
yeah, the world is wireless right now, and there's definitely a nexus of people's needs and technology taking place. That's much more visible on in the third world than it is here, but it's allowing rural areas much higher standard of living, or at least more of the conveniences that people in the city think that they are special for
And
having.
I think the fastest way to expedite this and knock out a bunch of super conglomerates at the same time is to get that fucking satellite internet, super
Yeah,
satellite network internet
I'm
that
gonna be talking
Musk
a little
talks
bit about
about,
that in the
man.
future.
I don't know. It seems relatively easy in principle, right, to pull this off. I mean, satellites aren't anything old, or aren't
Yeah, it
anything
can be
new.
done. It can be
Uh,
done, and it is being done on different scales. But yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode, maybe.
but
Anyway,
imagine that sort of idea encompassing the future of, so to speak, youth who grows into this um, off the grid lifestyle.
yeah. Now,
Um,
someone who lives in a farmhouse in the middle of America, far away from any highway or town.
yeah, I think those
Soon they're gonna be
stereotypes though
able. Soon
are
they're gonna.
going away. It's going to change into this
Well,
weird
if I
sort
could
of
finish my thought, soon those people are gonna be able to. I didn't say anything about stereotypes or say anything bad about those people. The the reason there's a reason those people are stereotyped is because they're often ignorant, because before there's a lack of information because it had to travel on
right.
the ground, so to speak. Now it's all non-local, and a child born soon in middle America where there's no town or highway anywhere close to them is still going to be able to educate themselves to the level of a college graduate, like I was talking about earlier, using that
Right.
methodology. It doesn't matter where you're going to be anymore. If you have a cell phone with a big fat display and a keyboard and a mouse you hook up to it, or whatever, man, it's happening for sure. But we should go ahead and wrap this up because we're over an hour here,
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
and my dog's whining. I think he needs to go out. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you made it this far, if you did, I'm sure you must have. Otherwise, you probably turned it off a long time ago. But yeah. Anyway, hope you got something out of it. Enjoy your day or night or whatever, man. Take it easy. Later. Bye.
Goodbye. Invest in the Corn credit card platinum.
Yeah, only 33.3% interest rate daily.
In never-ending threes over that.
Yeah. They call that
It's
recursive 3. All
yeah.
right, buddy. All right, bye.
Goodbye.